Soviets and Soviets of the Red Army, how you all doing? This is Con Ulrich.
I'm Mangroo, low, low, low.
And folks, we offered some more Steel Division 2 second charity tournament replays, and we deliver here on Hiroshima. We're going to give you another Allies match, I suppose. Right. Who's fighting? What are they bringing?
On left hand side, in the blue, we have P.Yuri.Tanner playing as 29th Tank Corps with a balanced income. Right hand side, in the red, we have a Dark Neutron playing as 15th Scots with a Maverick income.
So this 15 Scots, this was the same player who, let's just say, had a bit of a tsunami last week, wasn't it?
Indeed it was, with all the Typhoon spam, so he definitely has the same strategy. Just looking at his deck, it's literally just Typhoons in the air tab. So we're going to see how it's going to play off. Tanner does have not a large air force, so he has the fighters where it counts, and he does have a decent amount of anti-air, mainly just 37mm anti-aircraft guns, and he already has 2 of them out at the start, so he must be somewhat self-aware. So we're going to see how that will play out.
He's self-aware. He will destroy all of Dark Neutron's troops. I was having a very Skynet vibe there for a moment. Well, if you look at the later too as well, he's going to be able to bring in 9 37 mils in C, which is absurd, honestly.
Yeah, you don't. I'm quite surprised he's got that many. You think just a B phase card would be enough, like an A phase and B phase and C phase of each of the 37 mils, or change it up with an 85 mil if you can. I believe you can with 29 Phil. Don't quote me on that.
The problem with having an 85 mil though is I feel like this 37 mil is first of all more dual purpose, and second of all just more viable putting out that suppression. The 85, if it doesn't hit, I mean, congratulations, there goes 20 or 30% of the suppression you might have gotten before that airplane hits you.
No, you're entirely correct. The 85 mil is more of a specialized tool. It only really works when you have 37 mils and other anti-aircraft guns in the field. Because the 85 is more just, yeah, to make the bombs inaccurate, and maybe deter bombers before they actually drop their load. Well, the 37 mils are better for helping you in dogfights and doing actual damage, I find.
Oh, absolutely. And let's not be afraid to add in the fact that it's also going to be something like, shooting down biplanes, really.
Yeah.
Willie's MG might be one of the first casualties of the match, going down to a Zis 3. And the first Typhoon is in. Trying to think about where that goes. Oh, he's going after the Zis 3. Yeah. A good call here already. And with basically what amounts to a hefty chunk of bombs, nearly skadoosh.
Ooh, so close, yeah. It's a little bit fun. Here we go. We got the Cobra being brought out.
No. No. This Cobra ain't commanding anything.
No. Yeah, Typhoon speed is pretty gnarly, especially once you dropped the bomb load. Definitely it helps out a bunch with its survivability, and also just being a pretty resilient plane for what it is. But this is quite a slow opener on this map. Usually when you see people play this map, there's either a rush in the town or a rush in northern sector, but that's not really the case. I mean, Dark Neutron is playing it slow, waiting for his Churchills to get to the front line here, and Tanner as well, mainly just setting up static defensive lines, and even buying artillery, of all things.
Why is that, do you think? What do you think the game is? Is it that he knows it's going to be the whole air power and he figures that if he can delay that air power as much as possible? Is he playing just for C phase? What do you think he's doing?
I definitely think the getting to 37 mils out is in retaliation to potential bombing play from Dark Neutron, that's for sure, because that is a very specialized call out. I mean, that's points that could be going towards more T-34s or infantry, and he has a pretty light infantry loadout in the central town position. So, I mean, it's quite funny seeing both people play quite defensively with... Well, actually, to be fair, Tanner, yeah, he's playing C-phase. He's got a balanced income.
But I think at the same time, too, if you're looking over here at the Scots have a delicious infantry advantage, I think, in the early stages here. Yeah. I'm actually really surprised he's not being a little bit more aggressive. I do know that once you get those strokies over here in the late game, heck, those IS-2s, those T-34-85s, it's going to get pretty gnarly up in here.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, Tanner definitely does have the tank advantage, of course, with all, I mean, T-3045s can do quite a good amount of damage against those earlier model Churchill tanks. The Churchill Mark 7s would be a bit of a pain, but even then, you got IS-2s to deal with them.
Well, the Churchill Mark 6s are apparently having a bit of a problem. Mortars coming in to start dropping smoke, so here we go. We have a half-track rush moving on in. And I like seeing this. I would have liked to see a little bit more infantry in this as opposed to just the one squad of Strokies, but I think he's being very, very optimistic.
Yeah.
And that optimism is misplaced.
Yeah, definitely seems like Tana is just going to play more of a defensive game in these first 20 minutes, and frankly, he can do that. I mean, Dark Neutron isn't really putting that much pressure. I mean, with Dark Neutron's income type, he really should be trying to push either North or South Hill a bit more aggressively, preferably North Hill, to try and get that plus run point advantage. I mean, we're almost, over halfway through A phase now.
Oof. And this Typhoon might even potentially go down?
I just realized having all the 50 cal half tracks, yeah, it's actually proven to be a pretty decent anti-aircraft net.
Well, yeah, and that's certainly true. But here's the counter to it, the 140 off map OP being coming in here. And that can ruin quite a bit of somebody's day. I think he's just going to move it just to the northwest, maybe behind those rifles and the field engineers, near the center flag.
Yep.
And then watch for 2 call-ins for artillery. One on the Ogdemachiki Strokey, or if he can put it any further west, he's going to do so. But you heard it here first, folks.
There's going to be explosions.
Oh, there's going to be many explosions, and I think he's been seen too, which is why the half tracks are beating feet.
Yeah, it's quite a defensive maneuver, pulling back so aggressively, so to speak. I'd actually be curious to see if he does decide to redeploy him somewhere, because you could do a pretty nasty half-track rush if he rushes the southern side. Oh, I wonder if he's even thinking about doing that just due to him playing rather cagey, I think just due to his C-phase income.
Well, you can see right now, his only other, I think, yep, he's got... No. Yeah, so he's bringing a third of his fourth 37 mils over here into the center. This is going to be the main point of contention across the entire map. I almost don't even want to look at any other part of the map because both guys are kind of screaming at each other and being like, I'm not going to invade you, I'm not going to invade you. And we have this slow build the entire way. But it's going to break pretty soon. I would say within the next probably 2 or 3 minutes.
I would hope so, that's for sure. But yeah, Dark Neutron, I'm just thinking of, this isn't a great map in the sense for being an aggressive Scotch player, because this map, especially in the center, really does boil down a lot to good tank play. And yes, those Churchills are decent tanks, but by God, they're so slow. It takes forever for them to get to the actual front line. If only 30 kilometers an hour road speed, he just doesn't really have the momentum just in terms of speed and getting to the front line and keeping up that push. Even if he decides to.
To be fair, that was Winnie Churchill himself, though, too. So yeah. I mean, they're just aping the man overall.
Yeah, I always think of the Churchill tanks. So soldiers are just doing the Fred Flintstone thing of using their feet to move the tank. Right,
they so really slow. Are beating feet. Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, so we're seeing an off-map being dropped in a pretty poor spot, not really going to hit much. And one of the Typhoons do go down to a slick Cobra kill, yeah. So, yeah, Tana, if he can keep the skies clear, he should be in pretty good shape.
Yes. But there's still a potential 12 more Typhoons.
Yeah, it's a lot of Typhoons. There's a lot of anti-air now in the field, so he's doing decent. He's definitely focusing much more on support units. I mean, you have 3 bloody mortar bikes in the back here. He's even got a resupply truck here as well.
But, I think it's just because it means that P. Tanner over here has been trying to pay attention to the things that we've been bellowing about for weeks, which is artillery is there for a reason.
Yeah. And he's definitely... He can build up such an effective artillery net just due to the fact that Dark Neutron hasn't been putting too much pressure on him. And time is on Tanner's side as we're about to head into B phase.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this 3 to the south of the town goes down. Not too surprising there. That's going to be one of those things that happen eventually no matter what.
Yep.
And OP off map is starting to creep forwards. Again, not making really good calls with those off maps. I'm surprised.
Yeah. I mean, he could knock out both those anti-tank guns, but could have been a little bit more accurate in terms of hitting them dead center.
Here's the other thing I'm wondering. Nope, we're not seeing 25 pounders yet. Looking at the I was in New Zealand, but excuse me, the Scots deck over here, potential 6 25 pounders. This is the time to bring them in. If you want to go and get any kind of momentum, any kind of staying power, bring in a couple to the north, bring a couple to the south. But give me 3 different separate batteries, and then start pounding that town. Instead, we're actually going to see a bit of a thrust over here to the north. I'm not sure that I like it very much. The saddle tends to be a kind of minor point of contention as well. I would much rather see him try to insert himself in this open ground to the northwest of those 2 Churchill 5s.
No, I think at Northern Push could actually work rather well. He definitely needs to try to open up like a brand new flank. The problem with this push here is that the infantry are going to get here much sooner than the Churchills, so they're going to be without tank support unless Dark Neutron decides to hold back for the Churchills to come.
But I think that's part of my problem with it. Oh geez, those 82 mils fire so fast. So you see right now, a single off map, a single machine gun, a single anything, and then an entire push is gonna fall apart. My problem with it with pushing over through here is that it's just so freaking confined. It's a death valley. Like you can't get around it.
It is, but fortunately for him, I mean, Tanner's played very defensively, and he really should have had some stuff in front of, on the edge of the hill, so to speak. He deployed everything into the town area, which gives Dark Neutron really good approaches to get onto his hill, move through the forest, and actually give Tanner a bit of a hard time. I mean, Tanner does have a decent defense network here. He's got the recon, he's got Maxims and the churches, he's got off-map. So he's ready for this push, but he could have been in a better position to shoot them in the open as they cross the shadow, rather than just letting them get close.
The funny thing about
get
this...
close.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The funny thing about this, though, too, is that if you're looking to the north, you actually see that Fury Tanner's threatening his own push. He's got 2 off maps there, so watch. As those Tango Thessaloniki get about another 300 meters closer, there's going to be a couple different artillery barrages that are going to be called down here at the same time, and it's going to be a confused mess.
Yeah.
But piece by piece, the anti-tank is being taken apart in the center here. Half-track's still very conservative movements, and I don't know that I really agree with his kind of keeping those resources so confined.
Yeah, he's definitely playing very cagey, but it's working, yo. He still has half the town under his control. It has that Trove flag displacement, which is what he really needs. And Dark Neutron can't... I mean, he is trying to push into a town with rifles and whatnot, but he just doesn't have just enough to take it through. I think it's really his T-40-45s coming in pretty clutch with their heavy anti-tank firepower, and Churchills just can't really effectively engage him.
Well, the ball is opening over here to the north. Whereas Vedkas and Strelkis are fighting against these rifles and the field engineers. And field engineers, again, these are some squads that you gotta get close. They really lose a lot of their kind of damage potential if you're just trying to have them deal over here with their, SMLEs.
Yeah, they're definitely a unit you just want to rush in with the jeeps to unload right into the enemy face, rather than foot slogging with the rest of the blokes.
And here you go, a double 30 coming down. So if these squads are not forced into a retreat, they're gonna be dead.
Yeah. This is like a crazy amount of half-track play we're seeing from Tanner. Like, he has a lot of these 2A runs on his stack. I believe 29th is one of the few Soviet divisions that actually has a decent amount of 50 cal half-tracks, because most of them only have like 6 to 8 on average. And he's definitely taking advantage of it, and it's working really well because those Scots don't have anti-tank on the infantry. So you can just 50 cal the Scotsman to death.
Well, you and I waxed rhapsodic about the necessity of that a couple days ago, and this is kind of the reason that I really have an issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, you do have some rifles with Piats, of course, but I really do love using Soviet infantry, like guard DPs and all of that, because just having anti-tank rifles, yes, they're not great against tanks, but all this annoying light armor, which actually tends to be a little bit more of a threat to infantry, it's very nice just being able to blow it up from 500 meters.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In the meantime, that double artillery barrage to the north shut down that push. Trying to think also, I think we lost 2 Typhoons just now in that last sortie, and that might be the Achilles heel of the Scots, who ironically also don't think or didn't bring any Achilles here today. But I don't think they got them either. So
I believe they do.
But you never really tend
It's
to
like
see
limited,
them.
yeah. Most people will just. I'm fairly certain they do. I'm not 100%. So I'm just gonna keep backing down from this statement, but nonetheless, it's not looking too great here for Dark Neutron.
It isn't. Though to the north, they had a Humber try to go and humbly take out a Zis-3, and as you might suspect, that did not go well.
Yeah.
And this artillery barrage just continuing to shove back those brave Scotsmen. And in the center, actually, we're seeing our first wild animal sighting as a crocodile gets in there. Which I'm always excited about.
Yeah.
I like to see him actually be able to use his flame projector as opposed to just kind of, you know, vainly realizing that he's never going to get close enough to swing and hit him with his own flame cannon.
Yeah. It's essentially a tank you can take in a support tab.
Yep, and it blows up just as beautifully.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we have a pretty decent force here from Dark Neutron Center. He has a boatload, like a boatload of Churchills, and with the commander nearby, given veterancy bonuses, these would be pretty nasty, even against, well, I'd say all the T-3485s, but it seems they're all dead.
I don't even know where to look right now, because we have this half-track rush to this top, we have the T-3485s going crazy, and we have these super mobile mortars which are doing a great job smoking things out.
Yeah.
Of course,
like,
once
lovely.
they run out of those shells, they're not getting more of them.
Yeah, it's good seeing, like, actual mortar smoke plates. Really quite nice. And this is the push that Dark Neutron really needs to do. It's massive Churchill. So, and it's working. If he can capture his town, that is a pretty big gain. At the same time, we're almost at the end of B phase. Tanner has a boatload of troops up north here. And I feel like he'd be able to actually push this northern sector if he clears out the rest of Dark Neutron's force.
Well, we did see Command Churchill go down, and Typhoons are just not able to successfully engage here. T-3045 also dominating from long range.
Yeah.
He's picked up 2 kills already. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets at least 2 more.
He is shooting the crocodile instead of like the other Churchills, which is a bit of a silly maneuver.
I think he's legitimately just letting the sanity flow from the cannon by itself, as opposed to necessarily worrying about target acquisition here. And there's 2 of them here now as well, so it's not like there's really a whole lot to be super concerned about.
Yeah.
Yowza. There's so many T-3485s.
I know. We're finally seeing our first IS-2 being brought up, and the IS-2 in the center should be able to pretty much just knock down any Churchill or assault, essentially. Churchills just can't do anything against the IS-2. Tanner's gonna have to rely on 17-pounders to deal with it. And even then, he's gonna have to deploy the 17-pounders in the open, which isn't the best location for 17-pounders.
Oh, absolutely not. And the Churchills, one by one, have just been picked off.
Yep. I mean, Tanner's, like, just having that good tank force on the hill was enough to slow down that push.
Very, very true. In the meantime, infantry is desperately trying to get close enough to take over those houses and maybe get a few surrenders. I don't know if that's a realistic idea, but he's certainly going to try.
Yeah.
Command Churchill, in the meantime, up to the north, 175 penetration. I don't know he's going to last particularly long, but I love his gumption. With 15,
He's doing his best.
Oh, that's all you can ask him, you know. He's one of those plucky little individuals. You know, one thing we didn't pay attention to is that push down to the south.
Oh, hello,
um,
push down to the south. Nice to see you.
Well, it was one of those things that you definitely saw it starting to occur, but then, you know, P. Yuri Tanner unleashed the floodgates and everything flooded up way up north. You can see right here, there's so many troops here. And for some reason, he's also maneuvering half-tracks into the open against where he definitely knows that tanks are. So, interesting decision there. Maybe not one I would have done myself, but
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, Southern Push is definitely what Dark Neutron needed to do, because that is going to redirect some of Tanner's forces here, to try and deal with his Southern assault. I don't feel like this is going to last. He only really has a few rifles here. He doesn't have enough high explosive firepower to really deal, I think, with this huge spam. To be fair, his rifles are 3-star veterancy, so I think he will be fine, actually.
And it'll slow him down, too, and again, that's the most important thing. The 15 Scots, you don't have to hold the ground forever. You just have to hold it for 30 or 40 minutes at a time.
Yeah. Throw in the bodies. That Northern Push has been completely repulsed now, and I believe... I wonder if Tanner is going to do his counter-assault. Now would be a time to just rustle the infantry and cross the shadow before any defenses can get deployed here. And yep, that's what he's going to do. The hoorah charge of all the Strelkies and other Soviet blokes.
Seems to be the case, right? 3 rifle squads being brought on in, but geez, I always forget the Bedford is just as slow as it is. 60k on the highway.
Yeah. Not the fastest thing.
No, sir. And a quick barrage being lofted down at the town as more smoke shells being thrown on in. And, you know, looking at this, I don't want to say that Neutron would necessarily that he you know waited too long or something like that, but I feel like maybe he did wait a little too long.
Yeah.
About really pushing outside that town.
Yeah, he definitely did. He sort of really played a bit more aggressively along the saddles. If you're playing on like Maverick or Vanguard, a deck on this map, you need to play heavy on the flanks to actually get anywhere, because yes, that town fight can work and it is a like pretty luxurious area to get in terms of the amount of flags available, but it's very easy for your opponent to just slow you down and keep you bogged up here if he just throws in a few good units, and especially heavy tanks.
Certainly seems fair. And balanced right now, we're seeing just the whole of Soviet infantry. 6 or 7 squads of Strelki being brought on, and the mortars that are still alive are still firing. And to the north, the Vane rifle defenders are going to get shoved back by sheer dint of numbers.
Yep. Not really a whole lot they can do, yeah. And as usual, Scotch riflemen, they aren't that great by themselves. They really rely on high explosive fire support, and there's none of that up north.
Yep, without them, they just kind of get killed.
Indeed, they do.
And the Strelki rush continues over here in the center as well. He's not quite A-moving, but I actually like this little sweep he's trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, he's got
swing
smoke
around the
covering.
Churchill. Well, he's swinging around the Churchill in the first place, and I mean this literally. Like, if you look at the moves themselves, he's not just madly rushing across. He's looking to divide that town in half. Because one-on-one, a Strelki should be able to take a rifle pretty darn easily.
Yeah, it's a pretty even matchup between both.
I would just think that when you get close enough, Sten guns, good and all that, but I feel like the PP shot's just a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a little bit better, but I think it's mainly just that Strelki has one more guy. And also anti-tank grenades, which was nice. And here we go, he's going to be able to just rush up to that Churchill thanks to lovely smoke play And this is where I love seeing people using smoke to get up close to tanks to blow them up to smithereens.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, what other purpose in life should there be? I'm just watching as this artillery. This is the whole idea of combined arms warfare at its finest here.
Yeah.
Artillery and machine gun fire and tanks in a couple seconds. 76.2 millimeter shells are going to come down and just obliterate this position.
Yeah, like he's really got a lot of money out of those 82mm mortars, and they're just the mortar bike ones. They're not fancy mortar half tracks. And as you can see, you know, mortars can prove to be very useful in 1v1s. Of course, it's still not as meta, so to speak, due to the fact it costs a lot of income to set up his artillery park. But fortunately for him, with Dark Neutron being rather passive, he had the time and money to buy all of these mortar bikes.
And 6 more squads of Studebaker, bound Strokies are coming to the front. And this is the problem now. Dark Neutron doesn't have the bodies to throw in turn, and he can't trade squad for squad.
Nope, not at this point. There we go, he's starting to lose by that plus 2 point advantage now, so... Yeah, he looks really quite buggered here. I mean, that town position is just slowly going to get artillery. He can't really do too much of the Churchills. They're really weird tanks in this map, just because of how open it is, and also having to contend with IS-2s.
I'm trying to think about how many more IS-2s are yet. He just, he's got 6 of them. So, I mean, geez, I wouldn't be surprised if we're just going to see holding off on some kind of investment so that he can bring more and more in.
It's just the strokey spam coming in to fuel the town, which really all he needs. I mean, there's only one Churchill on there, and the rifles he can pretty easily trade with just his infantry and using good mortar play.
I am surprised that the IS-2 Komrati is not taking a slightly more active role right now.
Yeah. He's trying to spot enemy tanks and use it to pop around the corner and blow them up.
The rather fortunately timed artillery barrage stops the entire Soviet push. I'm not going to say it's going to be a reversal, because that would be a load of bollocks. But there is potential for the Soviet tide to kind of have to wash back a little bit further to the west.
Yeah. This is going to buy Dark Neutron a little bit of time, but Tanner has time on his side. He has the flags, he has the income, he has the units.
Yes, he does. And while he doesn't have the southern flank as much, he doesn't need it.
Oh, he has the flag here, which is really all that matters.
That's also fair. I think that's what the flank writ large, let's say.
Yeah. As long as
he's
going
to lose it in time. He's going to lose it in time. Why does he bring up 230? Why is it 230? Just throw the tanks on the southern side. Yes, I get it. It's a town fight, but you just need bodies there at this point.
But even if he does use that one flag down south, it's really not like Dark Neutron is going to get the other two, just due to how deep they are on the enemy lines. So all he can really do is control that one flag. And that's going to at least bring it down to only a -1 disadvantage, but still not great, yeah, for Dark Neutron. He doesn't really have any momentum to retake the northern flank, and really in a central position, well, a lot of Strokies have died. It's not as many anymore, and the rifles are being brought in. But there's still more Strokies somewhere in the spawn zone, ready to be deployed.
Well, the irony of it, too, is that, okay, so there's no Strokies. Big flippin' deal. There's also no AT on the Scotch infantry, so cool. I'm just going to send in an IS-2. And outside of you having a handful of rifle leaders, you can't do anything to me. So what do I care?
And we haven't seen 17-pounders really be deployed in the central position. I understand that, because, it's not the best position, of course. But he kind of just needs him, because by God, he can't do anything else against his IS-2.
True. And to complete the cycle, though, he's bringing in 6 more squad Strokies to the north, just to break the last little shreds of resistance over here from the rifles. Honestly, these 3 squads die, I don't care if you have a 6-pounder back there. Nothing is going to get out of that entire theater.
Yeah. And Typhoons have really not had much of a presence this match. I mean, the anti-air and just the good use of the Cobras have been enough to keep them at bay.
Well, I think that's the question, isn't it? Was it that it was the 2 early 37 mils were enough, or is it just that you couldn't get that same kind of economic buildup?
I definitely think the setting up an anti-aircraft net was one of the decisive bonuses, yeah, for Tanner, because it's not. The air power only really works if you manage to bomb stuff with them, because air power means not frontline units, which you can use to capture points. And as we saw, yeah, Dark Neutron didn't really have units to do any aggressive maneuvers with. As we've seen in the last replay of him, it was really all down to just Typhoon bombing runs, blowing everything to hell and back, and then clearing up what was alive. And he didn't really have the opportunity to do the same play because the Typhoons kept getting raw to the rave on some angry Russians mounted on some rather nice anti-aircraft guns.
Indeed. Indeed.
Want to take us to ×2 at 3110?
Go for it, ×2, go for it. Alright.
I think at this point it's pretty clear Dark Neutron doesn't really have much of a chance to take his back. But we'll see how long he can hold until relieved. You know, he's not getting relieved, but don't tell him yet.
Yeah. I will say my exuberance to very quickly go to ×2. I actually paused myself for a couple of seconds, so Ryan, if something happens in the future, don't tell me anything.
Okay.
Cool. Down to the south, T-3476s are, again, showing why it's 100% necessary to have anti-tank material. And the Piat there, as well, is showing why you need to have anti-tank infantry.
Yep.
Again, 6 of one, half a dozen of another here, but this is why it's 100% necessary. And I think that the Scots are going to soon see the writing on the wall and head back up to their bogs. They have bogs in Scotland, right?
Yeah, they definitely have, a few bogs, yeah.
They can just kind of bogger off and go spend some more time with Bond back at Skyfall. In the meantime, though, more Stokies getting brought into the south. We have many rifles rushing around, and we have Typhoons desperate to go and to push back the marauding Soviet infantry to the north, taking out a couple of squads, but to what end? Not a whole lot of one.
Yeah, and it's pretty much all northern flags have fallen to Tanner's control at the 1680, and the southern flag is rolled back under control as well. I mean, Dark Neutron still has a decent defense in the town, but we got Maxim Spam being brought in now, and still at IS-2. The IS-2 with the recent changes no longer has as much high explosive shells, which personally I find a bit silly, so it's not as effective in the infantry support role.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things that even I have an issue with as well, but I'm sure there are powers that they're smarter than both of us who decide that there's a reason for them.
It was because I'm fairly certain they rechanged IS-2 loadout was mainly because 4v4s and 10v10s, it's pretty much just YAM versus German super heavy tanks, and it's kind of annoying only having AP shells. But this is a very interesting argument that we'll bring up towards the end here, because it's the argument between balance and historical accuracy. Because balance-wise, yeah, it kind of makes sense for it to have 16 AP shells, to be fair. Especially if you're looking at this from a 4v4, 10v10 perspective, when the game is very different to play with Star Rise, and you're mainly using IS-2 to blow up all the King Tigers on the field. But historically, they didn't carry that much AP shells. A lot of Russian tanks carried more high explosive shells, because most of the time you're blowing up bunkers, and poor Germans who are trying to defend against your massive wave of Soviet attack breakthroughs in the 1944 period. I was trying to make that sound a little bit more fancy, but it just didn't fall off the tongue.
That's okay. The word that was going to fall off my own tongue was an attack helicopter, but then again, I was watching something on the whole Mogadishu battle a couple hours ago, so I got that on the brain.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, up in the air, they're having a laugh. Oh my gosh, this is just a victory flight. Yeah.
And there we go,
but,
the GG.
the GG and a surprisingly similar KD on this one. Churchill doing decently well. 17 pounder getting 4 kills from Kane. Kane is able to kill his friends there. The Typhoon, actually, I didn't even see him take out those 4 82 mil stovepipes, but he did.
Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that either. I mean, that's a good kill, but it probably came a little bit too late.
On the flip side, Konopov over here, 60% of the way to being an ace in one battle. There's just 2 decently well. T-3485, killing 3 nice tanks here. Strokey squads, Ice-2 Comprati. Ice-2 Comprati killed one of the Typhoons. He got the incidental final shot, it looks like.
That is... I guess the Dusker anti-air does actually work as anti-air.
It works as like it says on the tin. Not well, but theoretically. But I mean, it's not that shocking, I suppose, as what goes on.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting match. Yes, towards the end, it was definitely a slaughter against Dark Neutron. But it's kind of nice to see a balanced income, like, do pretty well. I mean, he played it very, like, that's like a very textbook balance. He was extremely defensive in those first 20 minutes. He didn't try to overextend. He just set up a defensive line, got some support units out, and just held those first 20 minutes. And in the last 20 minutes, he completely broke on through.
And that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what you need to do.
Yeah, and especially if, like, that's a good balanced play. I mean, Dark Neutron definitely could have been a bit more offensive, but I think the math screwed him over. Also, not being able to deploy the aircraft. And, yeah, Scotch is it's kind of a weird, like, Vanguard balance deck. Vanguard Maverick deck. Because your tanks are really slow. It's not like with 3rd Canadians or New Zealand's where you could, like, rush with Shermans and Stuarts and other fancy blokes. Your Churchills take forever to get to the front line. So you need him on the front line to give fire support, unless you can use Typhoons, but Typhoons didn't work.
Well, I mean, they were fighting in the middle of Russia. There was no way they were going to get a Typhoon there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess by the time it managed to drop the bombs, I mean, they're running on empty. They can barely make it back to Britain to the airbase.
Absolutely.
Oh.
But I believe that is going to do it for us today.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts, sir?
Thank you, Tanner, for using a crap ton of smoke and the mortars. You made me
Yes.
very happy. I want to see more of that play, guys. It worked really well for him in that match and just securing that town.
Well, and that's really what it needs to freaking be. You know, it's hard to go and not pay attention about how that's successful right there. So we'll
Keep
see
smoking,
how it goes.
Guys, keep smoking.
Exactly. Thank you for smoking at all times. In the meantime, that's going to do it for us today. Again, a big thank you to the ST2 community for putting together the second charity tournament. I don't know if the donations are still open, but you'll find a link to the description of that below. It's Action Against Hunger. Great organization. And I think until next week, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangaroo. Take it easy.